Carl, do you want to push buttons or do you want to hold the camera?
All right, so the main thing that I tell people on these machines is you have Haas machines, you have other machines. They all more or less do the same thing. The most frustrating point is where do they put the button on this machine?
Yeah.
So because you guys have all the equipment you have, this is not going to be a hard learning curve.
Yeah.
It's going to be frustrating at first because you don't know where they put the buttons or how they name something.
Right.
So, and also anything I tell you, I'm not giving you tribal knowledge. I guarantee, trust me, everything I tell you is in a book somewhere, but that can also be frustrating trying to find it. So I just don't want you to think that I'm, giving you guys information that isn't already documented.
Right.
All right, so we'll start with power up. So obviously the one that says on off on the right hand side.
Oh, wow. Didn't notice that. So that's the power up.
Yep, that's power on. As long as our main disconnect is on and our air is on.
That's a power symbol though.
That's a cycle start.
That one is?
Yeah.
What? Okay, here we go. Ready? Do I have to hold it down?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
You can hear the fans come up. It's on its way up. Now, because of the EOP system that's on here, which is a front end of the control, like I tell people when you turn it on, go get yourself a cup of coffee. It takes a minute or two.
Give it a sec. Yeah. The fastest machine at powering up is that one right here.
Because it's the oldest.
Because you turn that one on and it goes, ding, it's up.
Yep.
It's just not complicated. They get more and more fancy over time. At least you can see it going through its files, huh? California calendar. That's cool.
Okay.
And of course, it seems longer while you're standing here watching it versus if you're
Just
moving and
push it,
grooving
walk
and doing
around.
stuff. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
We have air on for is the air compressor on?
Yeah, Carl turned it on.
Okay, all right. All right. Once it comes up, this is what you're going to call the home screen, whatever. It's also, you can come back to this screen by this button right here with the little squares on it. So from here, it depends on which side you want to run on. There's the standard FANUC side and there's the EOP side. EOP is Doosan's version of we know what operators want to see more than FANUC does.
Yeah.
So whatever, it doesn't matter. I personally use the FANUC side, but I've also been running FANUCs for over 35 years.
Right.
So if I want to go to the FANUC side, I hit maintenance display. Now I'm in the FANUC side.
Yep.
So you can see you've got your a part of the program here. You've got your position pages, all that stuff. Just to show you what the other side looks like, I hit this button to go back to that.
Yep.
Okay, NC operations.
Is that the
That's the EOP.
EOP.
Yeah, interesting.
So the EOP side, you can do whatever you want. Whatever you can do on the FANUC side, you can do on the EOP side, and vice versa. The EOP side is more of a graphic-y way of looking at the control. So, but any function you do on one, you can do on the other. So that's why I tell people it's whatever you want to see and what you like to see. You know, you got the big graphs for the load meters and stuff. We're here. This is my graph for the load meters. So Everything's there. It's just more what you want to see and how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
So, starting in with the panels. The controls split up into two different panels. This bottom panel is what they call the operator's panel.
Yep.
This panel is called the MDI panel. And the reason why I point that out is if you're in the book and it says, hey, press a button on the MDI panel, you know you can eliminate this section. So that's the main reason why I point that out. The MDI panel is actually built by Fanuc, where the operator panel is actually built by Doosan and designed by Doosan. So,
Okay.
all right. So I'm going to go ahead and just get started in with the operator's panel. A lot of this stuff, like I said, you guys are going to know just because of all the other equipment that you have. But I'm just going to point it out and breeze through it so that you guys can, you can see the similarities between the two controls. Okay, so to come out of E-stop, you rotate this. This is when it says machine ready, or also think of it as E-stop reset. That's what's going to bring your machine out. You can hear it click on, you can hear the air blowing, whatever. The other thing I wanted to point out as far as an E-stop button is you have one on your MPG. And because this is a magnetic, it'll hit you more than once. You have it on the table because you're looking at something, you lean on it, it's going to go into E-stop.
Yeah, so this one might not be releasing and you're like, well, it's not working, but it might be that one.
Exactly. So, all right. So machine ready or E-stop reset. This has a few functions to it, but for all intents and purposes right now, think of this as an over travel release. You get into over travel, you got to hold down the 2, jog it off of over travel. There are other functions for that button, but for right now, that would be a good way to look at it.
Okay.
You have some LED lights right here. Alarm, M001, MO2, and lube. So go ahead and open the door. So you got to hit this button here first.
Yep.
Okay, as soon as the door is open, here's an example while you get a red LED. All it's saying is that the door is open and you also have the red light up there. But I'm just letting you know, anytime you have a message or an alarm, this is going to light up.
Right.
M00, M01.
Yep.
You guys are familiar with those codes?
Yeah.
Anytime you hit one, that's going to light up amber. Same way with the tower up there will as well.
Nice.
MO2, M30. You'll never see MO2 again. That was old school.
Yeah.
But anytime the program ends, it's going to be amber.
Yeah.
Same way, both places.
The only place we see it is on the plasma cutter. The CNC plasma still uses an M02.
Right. And then lube alarm. If you have any type of a lube alarm, it's going to show up red. After that, we get into what I call the function keys or mode keys. All right, first one being edit mode. I'm sure you guys have all had to use edit mode. You're in the program, you want to edit it, blah, blah, blah. Memory mode, also auto mode. This is where you're going to run your programs from. Tape mode you will never use. Tape mode is again an old school function when you're using DNC. There's way too much memory in this machine to ever worry about tape mode anymore.
Yeah.
MDI mode, manual data input. I'm sure you're familiar with those.
Yep.
Reference mode, again, you're homing out the machine. Jog mode, now, I will think about jogging. Some machines allow jog and handle to work interchangeably. This Doosan does not. You either have to be in jog or you have to be in handle.
Just handle that?
Yes,
Okay.
MPGs, yep.
Okay.
Now, with the doors open and you're in jog mode, that is all the faster you can jog. So what I tell people is if you have the doors open, you're doing a setup, go to handle because you can handle way quicker than you can jog. So I pick Y here.
Oh, yeah, wow.
So,
Well, and that's cool too, because you can get it down here closer to what you're working on.
yes. This button is going to be used if you have to recover your tool changer. I hope you don't, but this is where that's just going to get you into where you can look at the commands. You can see the soft keys. You can do one operation at a time, what needs to be done, things of that nature. Cycle start and feed hold. I'm sure you guys, they work exactly the same as the other machines. Cycle start to go, you hit feed hold, it'll stop axis motion. So as long as you don't hit reset, you hit cycle start again, it picks up from where it left off.
Yeah, they're just on opposite sides of the hog.
That's exactly what I was about to say. That's the only complaint I hear about them is that they're opposite from the hogs. Okay, I didn't design it.
Still green and red though, they ought to figure it out.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, Mongo.
All right. Any questions on just that section of the operator's panel? I'm sure you guys, it's pretty
straightforward.
Yeah. All right, we're moving on to our jog buttons. Okay, you will have fourth axis once they get it installed. You will not have fifth.
Right.
Okay. Jogging again. You can see I'm jogging the Z down.
Yeah.
X minus, X plus, and then Y minus, Y plus. Now, if you are jogging and you want to jog it quicker, you can hold down the rapid traverse button and get it to go quicker, but the doors have to be closed.
Yeah.
There you go. So, if I turn to one thing too that a lot of people are jumping up, I'm jumping a little bit. If this is at 0, that is feed hold. That is exactly the same as hitting the red button here. It also affects jogging. Or if you're trying to do something, it is feed hold. It will stop all axis motion. So if I take that at 100 and I'm jogging this, when I hit this, you can see how it will jog quicker. Now, the one thing is if your rapid override is set at 0, which it's not 0, it's like 10%. If I'm jogging, I hit the button, it actually went slower because it defaults to your rapid override.
Oh, that's your overrides.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to give you an example,
Whoa, you can still jog fast?
well, that's if this is set at 100%.
Yeah. That's still not as fast as, that's not full rapid though.
No,
Right.
it's pretty close.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
All right, that's the jog mode. So this is to be able to turn on your spindle in jog mode. Here's the caveat to that. It will only turn on at what the last RPM was programmed. So right now we haven't programmed nothing. I try and turn it on, it's not going to come on.
Right.
Well, let's just say you're in the middle of the setup, whatever, and you put an indicator in your spindle, and I'm going to jog it on by here. If your last command is $5,000, bye-bye indicator.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that, this is your spindle override. Put that down, start it, and then you have control over how fast. Like, oh, I don't want to be that fast, whatever.
Safety, yeah.
Or I tell people just MDI spindle speed. That way you know exactly what you're looking for and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To turn it on, if you want to use it, you do have to hit start and on at the same time in order to enable that to come on. Spindle override is it's percentage. So 40%, 60%. Again, that's used for, I'm in a cut, it's chattering. I want to, play with the speed a little bit, but it is a percentage. If you go to the next tool and this is still sitting at wherever you set it, it's still going to give you a percentage of what was programmed.
Right.
It does not reset itself after it sees another command. Again, feed rate over, rapid override. I will point this out. 50 to 100 is a big bump. So I caution your students, you can run 100% if you want, but for the most part, I would keep that down.
We do too.
Yeah, we
So
put.
does it give us an option to lock that out so it can't
No.
go above 100 or
No.
above 50?
No.
Okay. I didn't know if a parameter setting.
The only parameter setting is the F0. You can set that, right now it's set at 10%,
Okay.
so it's not truly F0. That is the only button that has a parameter tied to it. All right, any questions on that half of the operator's panel?
No.
Okay. Get into these here, single block. Everyone's friend when you're proofing out a program. Optional block skip. I wish they would leave the optional off it because the next one over is optional stop. Just call that block skip. Are you guys familiar with block skip?
Yeah.
Okay. Optional stop. Again, if you have MO1 on.
Yep.
Okay. Dry run. I don't see dry run being a very useful function anymore. It used to be, but not anymore. What dry run does is turn all axis feed rates into 39 inches a minute, regardless if you're cutting or not cutting. It was more meant for the old days. You used dry run and machine lock to be able to proof out a program looking for syntax errors, missing commas, missing feed rates, things of that nature. Nowadays, with the CAM systems and the simulators and all that stuff, I just don't see it used that much anymore. MST lock. No M codes, no S codes, no T codes. Again, I don't know what that is going to do. You can't change tools, you can't turn on the spindle. I haven't found a real good use for that button yet.
So it's almost like a simulator mode.
Almost,
where they
yes.
could just watch it, graph it, something
Well,
like
but
that.
with MST lock, your axes will still move, but nothing's going to turn on. But the other problem you have is this machine, if the spindle's not turning, there's an interlock to not allow the axis to move with the spindle not turning. How are you going to be able to simulate that unless you're putting the codes into your program?
Yeah.
It's there. I'm sure it has a use at some point, but I haven't found a lot. That is your grease pump.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
That's what you're hearing is the grease pump go.
Got some video of it.
Sound.
Good. Wow.
So, yes, when it's quiet in here, you will hear the pump going off. If it's noisy, very rarely you're going to hear it.
We got our dryer hooked up yesterday.
So that is greasing your ball screws and your linear guides.
Oh,
How often does it turn on?
Depends on if it's in idle or if it's in running. I want to say it's 15 minutes when it's in cycle, maybe 10 minutes.
Okay.
When it's idle, I think it's 30 minutes. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's about what it is.
Yeah.
This next key, it has a function, it does work, but caution, hardcore caution.
what key was that?
Program restart.
Okay.
The idea of it is, I have 15 blocks set up on my machine, and I'm drilling and tapping a bunch of holes. I break a drill. The idea of program restart is you can go back to the middle of that program once you change your drill out and go pick up from where you left off. I know that the Haas control, it's much easier to use than the FANUC control. The caveat is, one, you need to use end numbers in your program, which takes up memory. Two, the way it works is you start at the beginning of the tool in single block mode. You single block through until you pick up the offsets. Once you pick up the offsets, then you jump ahead in the program and it goes. The problem is no one ever single blocks through and picks up the offsets. They just go program restart, move the cursor down and hit go, and it slams the head into the table. So yes, it has a function. Yes, it does work, but it is very picky and finicky. In this type of setting, I can't see where you would want to teach your students to do that. Just restart the operation and go from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Repeat mode. Again, repeat mode to me is more of a lathe function. So if I have a lathe with a bar feeder, I write my program with an M30, I turn on repeat mode, it will loop, just like you had an M99. I don't know where you would loop in a mill like that. Now, it does have a function. Keep in mind, these panels are a generic panel to fit everything. If you have a pallet changer on your machine, repeat mode is what activates the pallet changer.
Oh.
So it does have a function, but again, I don't see the functionality in this setting.
Gotcha.
Keys that have nothing on them. Again, this is a panel used for a lot of different machines. On another machine, these may have functions, but if they're blank, they have no function.
Okay.
All. This is your machine lock. So if you push dry run and machine lock together, that's where you were talking about how it'll run through a program.
Okay.
Machine lock says lock all axis motion. Dry run at 39 inches a minute. It's going to cruise through your program to look for syntax errors.
So, a quick question. Should we have the door open whenever we're gonna do like a dry run?
No,
Okay.
it has to be closed.
Okay.
Think of dry run and machine lock as it's still an auto function. So if the doors are open, you cannot hit cycle start, it won't go.
Okay.
The other thing about machine lock I want to mention is, oh yes, if you have a missing decimal point, a missing comma, it'll find that. But if you meant to go Z minus 100 thou,
Yeah,
and you actually went Z minus 1 inch,
Yeah.
it's not going to catch that.
No, it's not. Unless you see it in the movement. Then maybe
Well, that's it. With
okay.
machine lock, it won't move.
Oh, it won't move.
Yeah,
Oh.
it locks all axes motion.
Yeah, okay.
Spindle will turn on, coolant will come on,
Yeah.
all that will happen, but it will not move.
Okay.
This is just Z-lock. The only time I see that as a function is if you have a weird fixture up there and you're trying to move it around to see if you're going to kiss something. Again, these 3 buttons, they're there, they do work, but I just don't see them being used very much.
Okay.
MF1 through MF4. These are tied to spare M codes, M91 through M94. What they're used for is you have a vacuum fixture and you want to turn on the pump for the vacuum.
Yeah.
Or the other thing I see them on is you have a turret system for a vacuum as opposed to using coolant. You can turn on the motor or the suction vacuum motor from these buttons or by M codes.
Right.
The M codes are in the machine. They are set up there. You can wire into them on the I/O. It's for external devices that you want to wire into them. All right, T-Manage. T-Manage is going to tell you what tool is in what pot. This is a random access tool changer. So on your houses, they're the same way unless you have the old umbrella style.
Yep.
The old umbrella style tool 1 goes into pot 1.
Always, yeah.
This is random. So this is where you're going to see these tool numbers move around. Because this is a new machine, you can see they're all lined up. But as you get running, they will not.
Yeah.
T-load. There is tool load management in this system. In other words, you can have redundant tooling in your spindle and you can have like 3 end mills that are the same. You can set up T-load either by how many times that tool's been called in or by load meter setting, whatever. You can set all this up, and if it reaches that threshold, it will then go ahead and call the next tool that is redundant to it.
That's cool.
Now, again, in this setting, I don't see how you would use it, but it is there.
In production, that's a big deal.
The other thing too is it does require extra programming. Like you have to enter M700 codes into your program to actually watch it. If you don't have those 700 codes, it's not even looking at this stuff. So there is some extra to do when it comes to that. First reference. As you can see, I just hit first reference in jog mode and it sent the machine home. You can do that on power up. The reason why I don't teach it that way is because I like to reference each axis one at a time. We haven't gone over homing out the machine yet, but I will show you that once we get done going over the buttons. But it is there, you can do it. I think I like to reference each axis on its own so I can make sure if I have a tall fixture or something, things are out of the way. Tapping retract. Tapping retract is kind of an odd function. As I tell people, if you need tapping retract, go buy a lottery ticket. Because the only way you need the button is if the machine is actively in a tapping cycle and you lose power. When you bring the machine back up, it's going to ask you, it's going to prompt you, hit tapping retract to wind the tap out of the hole.
Oh.
Again, only in a tapping cycle and only if the lights go out while you're in a tapping cycle.
Right.
What's a tap cycle? 12 seconds maybe?
Maybe.
So that's what I'm saying. Your power has to go out within that cycle. So that's what I tell people. Buy a lottery ticket. M-Move. M-Move allows you to set up different load or unload positions in your machine. Where M-Move is more used, what I see in the world, is on a horizontal. The horizontal changes tool all the way over away from you. They set up an M move to bring the head over to the operator door so they can manually put in tools. It's there, it's functional, but on a small machine like this, again, I don't see it. The other thing you can do too, are you guys familiar with the G53 command?
Yes.
You can set up a G53 in a position, move your table right to where you want it to move to.
Yeah.
That's how we train.
Or you can also use a G30 command, secondary home. You
I
can
don't
set up
have
a
that.
secondary home. Okay, so
G30.
yeah, so when you home the machine in the program, it's G28. So it's G0, G91, G28, X0, Y0, Z0, correct? Secondary home is same thing, but instead of a G28, use a G30. But you set up the home positions in parameters. So when we do a tool change, you'll see the Z light blinking. That's because tool change position is actually done at secondary home of Z. You can set X and Y for secondary home as well. Move the table to where you want your secondary home. Usually Y is 0 because it's always the front. X, you just move it over, find a number, convert that to metric, and throw it in parameter 1241. So, again, different ways to skin a cat. W origin. I believe it's nothing more than a way to look at where your work shift is set up on your part. And if you want to move it, instead of here, it's showing the center of the part. If I want it to be at the back corner, you can move it to there. But I think
that's cool.
it's more of a graphic way of looking. Hey, I don't remember. Or here's a good example. Somebody else did the program, but the part was sent out to an operator. If he's not sure where he set it up, he can look and see where it's set up in the machine. GUI, right now we're not going to use, but once you get your probes, you will do GUI a lot. So if we look at GUI, here's where you get into the Renishaw graphics area. So just to give you this, so if I'm going to pick a probe, which is a spindle probe, I can use all of these to set up my G54. So let's just, the big one here is the corner. So I can go internal, external for what corner I want to touch off. I can come down, normally use, that's usually where you do it because it's the back left. And then I can tell it here what work offset, G54, G59, or you can also go to advanced. You got G54.1, P up to 48. So you have lots of work offsets in here. And then here you can tell it how far down the block to tap off of the part.
Wow.
Or if you want to do a double tap. So the only caveat I want to mention about that, and again, you'll get more of this once you get your probes installed and get training on it. When it gives you this distance, it's from where you park your Ruby. So let's just say I have a 3x3 block. This is 1.5 inches. It's whatever the amount plus where you set your Ruby that it's going to travel. So again, that's just one aspect. You can do Z minus, which is simple. What work offset am I doing? You can do a simple edge. If all you're doing like the old days of using a wiggler, set up my X, set up my Y, you can do them separately. Pocket, obviously inside. A web. Some people use a web a lot. If you program off the dead center of my block, all right, I got to do a Y web, I got to do an X web. You would do 2 operations, but it will give you dead center of that block. Boss and bore, pretty self-explanatory what we're touching off of and going.
Kind of like the Haas, that's something similar.
Yes, it's very similar, yes. I find the Fanuc Doosan Renishaw combination to be easier to use than the Haas side, only because in the Haas side, a lot of times you're having to go in and change variables and stuff like that to do what you're doing. This is all done right here by just inputting into the screen. This is very more similar to the Akuma version, how Akuma does it. To me, it's more like the Akuma. And if I wanted to go just quickly into T-set, I can set my length and it's just touching off your tool. I can do length and diameter. Oh, it's not highlighted, so they must have changed that. But the main thing is if I'm doing length and I want to go to random, I have 7 new tools in the carousel. As long as it's on center, I just type in the tool numbers and hit go. It will change tools, touch the tool, come off, change tools. So I mean, it's a very simple way to be able to let the machine be doing a function while you're maybe assembling something or whatever. All right, so that's all I wanted to go over with the round, just so you guys have a, get your feet wet. I know it's gonna be hard to figure that out until you actually have a probe to use, but it gives you an idea of the functions of the machine.
This will help.
Well, I wouldn't have looked in GUI to find it there, so
Right.
that's cool.
All right, so flood coolant, okay? Pretty self-explanatory. It's the coolant up by the spindle.
Yep.
Now, to turn it on, you hit the button. Turn it off, hit the same button. It is not the red button. Think of this as coolant lock. If you have this on, all M8s are ignored.
Oh, really?
TSC, do the spindle coolant. So,
Oh, okay.
my little spiel on TSC. Okay, make doggone sure your tool is a through tool coolant. Reason being is that Doosan up there is a drain line off of it, so like coolant that doesn't get through drains out. It is not very big. It is certainly not a pressure relief line. You have roughly 15 seconds if you accidentally turn it on and it's not a through spindle coolant before that Doosan turns into a grenade.
Ooh.
Holy crap.
So it's you have to be very careful what you're doing. Like I had another customer accidentally turned down through spindle coolant on his probe. That probe did not like that much.
Ooh.
So what I tell people, and I know you're in a school environment here, yes, you can put through spindle coolant on in the program at the computer. I tell people, let the operators or someone at the machine decide where they want to put that M7 in the program, because if the person's loading the tool, they know if it's a through spindle tool or not. Someone who might be sitting in another room at a desk may say use this tool, but he doesn't know whether the holder has through spindle. Yes, it can be done. All CAD systems do it. I tell as an extra layer, let the operator decide to put, and he can edit the program and put it in. Now I understand there are some shops don't allow the people on the floor to edit a program. I get that. But if I'm in a teaching environment, that's where I try and say, look, put your M7s in yourself while you're standing at the machine, so you know if that tool's through
So that's
spindle.
the code M7?
M7, yep.
We're going to try to dedicate its own tooling just for this machine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the good thing is the pull studs are different, so they can't really switch them out.
Right. If you try and load the wrong tool in here, it's not going to be a good day.
Yeah, we're...
Yeah, that tool wouldn't fit in a Haas. They wouldn't even go up in
They
there,
wouldn't
I
even go
don't
up in,
think.
no.
But the others would.
The
go
Haas
up in
would,
here.
the Haas pull stud would get in there, but they can have a hold of it, and if you turn the spindle on,
It'll drop out.
well, it may not drop, it may sit there and wobble. You may catch the edge of it. I'm just saying it's not a good thing.
Yeah. Well, that's warm.
Again, more keys that are blank.
Yeah.
Okay, light, that's pretty self-explanatory. Power saving is not a useful key. It's just not.
What's it for? What's their idea behind
The
it?
idea is you turn on power saving, and if the machine sits idle,
Oh, it
it
turns
will
itself
shut.
off,
It'll
yeah.
well, it doesn't. It just shuts the drives off.
Oh,
This machine will do that anyway on its own.
yeah.
The power saving key, I haven't found a good use for it yet.
Okay.
Chip conveyor key.
Yep.
If this is in auto mode, this button will turn on the conveyor.
Okay.
If this is in manual mode, it just runs all the time. Door open, door closed, doesn't matter. If you're in auto and I turn this on, okay, it's running. There, I stopped it. There, it's running now. Go ahead and open the door. It stops it when the door is open.
Okay.
So it also is controlled by M code, M24, M25. So you can turn your conveyor on 24 and 25.
Okay.
Edit key, pretty self-explanatory. All machines have them. What I want to go over on the MPG, on some machines you select your axes up here and your hand wheels up here. Everything is done here. You have axes and you have increment right here on this. Also, this is a magnet. So if you're on the table, so the main thing is, like, if I got a setup, I can set it on the table and it'll mag to the table.
I talked to Carrie about what would happen if that was to be. Oh, look at that.
Oh yeah.
You will get used to that button, and yes, it'll be a pain in the butt.
Can we override it?
That's kind of slick, actually.
Yeah, you dig the silicone out of the key and stick it over on the other side. that's Doosan's version of locking up. That they put silicone in the screws.
Oh my.
I don't mind learning how to do that. But we don't want to teach the students.
No, we do not. No.
To defeat interlocks anyway. Yeah, that's cool.
So
we have a tendency to put them back on when we get machines.
oh yeah.
Yeah, missing parts.
All right, that is the operator's panel. Anything that you have questions you can think of, or
Yes.
yeah.
So let's say we have a student. We tell them get on the machine, write a code in MDI, and save it. Can you show us how to?
You do not save MDI code on a FANUC control.
Okay.
That is a Haas function.
Okay.
Very nice function, don't get me wrong, but that is a Haas function.
So what will we use MDI here for? Just like a tool change and
Tool change, turn on spindles, simple one-shot commands.
Okay.
But can you handwrite a
Yes.
program in the memory?
Yes.
Is that how you do it?
Yes.
Okay, so it'd
You
be
go
in
to
the
edit
memory.
mode and handwrite a program in memory.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that feature on the Haas control is a nice feature. Like I said before, I actually like the Haas control. It has some very nice features. My problem is what the control's hooked to.
Okay. Right. So my other question is, I see that we have two ports.
Yes.
One obviously is a USB, and the other one's a card
slot, yes.
slot. So we're probably never going to use a card slot, in my opinion. But I don't know.
It's with USB and with the functionality of the USB, the card slot's it's not overly useful. The only thing that I could see you would use the USB for, or the card slot for, is you can drip feed from that card slot.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
CIA, is
Yes.
that what that is? That's interesting.
So
Get it all figured out?
Yeah, you want to play? Wow.
So you have a compact flash adapter.
Oh, yeah.
There's the card. So, couple
why
things.
would we want to use something like that?
Mostly if you're drip feeding
Oh.
from the card slot, or some people prefer this over USBs. The USBs tend to be a little more volatile. But again, with that stick in there, it's going to take hours for this to power up.
Oh.
The reason why is it's reading through that USB stick as part of its power up sequence. So pull the USB out. And when you hit control on after that, it will power up like you saw now. But if you have some sort of media stuck in there, part of the function of the control is trying to read through everything that's hooked to it. That can take forever.
Makes sense.
If you go to a card slot, the biggest cards you want to use is 2 gigabytes. Again, it's actually hard to find just a 2 gigabyte card anymore.
It is, yeah.
So again, yes, this is not a PC as far as the control. FANUC control, a PC can do things a lot more with memory than you can with this. The other thing I want to check just
You
because
don't need a lot of memory though for G code.
I want to
Generally.
see what's
Even big programs are small compared to PC stuff.
Okay, this does have the data server card. in the control. So the data server card comes standard from Fanuc with 1 gigabyte. It is literally a compact flash card mounted to the motherboard. You can use it as extended memory basically. So once again, you have 1 gigabyte already on the back of the motherboard. You have 2 megabytes for storage, general program storage. If you so desire, you can drip feed 2 gigabytes from here. So that's what I'm saying. From a memory standpoint, I don't know that you'd use, because you can load a program directly onto the data server and you can run it from there. Well, if I have a 1 gigabyte data server card,
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're doing some crazy surfacing with your 4th axis and you're making some really weird stuff, I don't see how you would ever have memory issues.
Yep.
Okay,
So when I have it, sorry, Alfonso, go ahead.
my question is, can you go through the process if we give you a USB, how to insert it and load it and all that?
Yes, I was going to go over the MDI panel,
Oh, okay.
and then I mean, we can jump, we can do whatever
No,
you'd
no,
like.
no.
Do your flow.
If you're gonna cover it, then
Yes, we can jump around. I don't have
No.
I have no problem with it. So once I go over the operator panel, I'm going to go over the MDI panel, and then we're going to go over to actually operator functions, homing the machine out, loading tools,
Okay.
all that type of stuff is usually how I do it, but we can jump to wherever.
Do it your way.
Okay. Any questions, I guess, on the operators panel right now?
no.
Okay, all right. We'll get into the MDI panel. So, on the MDI panel, these symbols right here, I wish they weren't there. They're not very useful. But I can show you where they're at. These symbols match up with these symbols.
Oh, okay.
But I haven't found them to be overly helpful or useful. What you need to pay attention to is the writing underneath the keys. So I've had some people do is they'll take a little label maker and they put it above in bigger letters so they can read what it means.
Oh, that's slick.
That's not a bad idea as far
Yeah.
as I'm concerned. So we start here with a position key. This is where I personally run my programs from. And the reason being, I have all of my positions, and then your program shows up here. Now, your distance to go will show up when you're in memory mode or MDI mode. You can get your distance to go. We're all familiar with distance to go. So
We use it all the time.
yeah, so one thing I want to mention is, since that's feed hold, I turn my rapid to 0. You can be in single block if you want, you don't have to. The one thing about being in single block mode is going through a tool change is kind of a pain in the keister because you've got a bunch of strokes to get that thing to change tools.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, come on in. Yes. You want some help with a cart? You're bringing a lot of them, huh?
yeah.